Hey, this is Bobby with GRUBB Mud Concrete, and we're back. Here we are pouring this front porch and sidewalk from the other day that you saw us form up. The concrete truck's just rolling in on the job. You see the red truck in front of them. We actually had to meet the concrete truck in town because the GPS would not come in on this address for some reason. It was just an old farmhouse out in the middle of a couple different counties, but I knew I could get concrete out here, and that's something that you really got to keep in mind, especially this day and age with this alleged cement shortage. You have to keep in mind, where can I get concrete at? And then you also have to obviously sell the job. So it's very important. Here we are just putting the chutes on. My dad's talking to the driver. I'm sure he's asking him if he's a 5 slump or 5.5 slump. We pour this about a 5.5, maybe a 6 slump at the most, but nothing looser than a 6 slump. When you're doing steps like this, I really recommend not doing it any. There you see, it's about a 5.5. I recommend not going any wetter than a 5.5 on these. And when you're pouring them out, what you want to do is you want to fill up your board first, and then go back and fill up your wall. That way you can start pecking it with the hammer and getting the air bubbles off the form. Yeah. This concrete is a 4,000 stone straight cement mix, which means there's no fly ash in it. So it's going to all cure really white. It cures pretty fast, actually, not having any fly ash in it. And the concrete plant is actually about 30 minutes away, maybe 45 minutes. It just depends on which way they came. But like I said, I knew I could get concrete out here, so that's just something you got to keep in mind as you're doing these jobs. Now, John he's just filling up this bottom step with the high stuff that's in the top. My dad went through and pecked it all out. Now, what I'm doing is, that's me up there on the strike-off board. I'll pull off that wall, and then I'll come down it sideways and make sure I get a good cut on that front edge. That way I know that it's down, and I know my water is going to drain off just exactly how I set the job up. So yeah, there I do. I turn, pull off the wall, and then I come back and basically strike it all back to the corner. And then any high stuff, what I'll do is I'll just pull it right off the form right into our bottom step. And then that way when the truck repositions, all he'll have to do is fill up the bottom step. There John is. He's floating out the side. John's been doing this a long time, guys. Like, he's not quite as old as my dad, but he's been actually doing the work longer than my dad. Like I said, my dad is a retired retired concrete truck driver. So he's seen it all. Has he done it all? Probably, but not as many times as everybody else. But here I am. What I'm doing is I'm catching it up. I'm closing it up. What that means is I'm just taking the bull float and going over it once or twice just to get it all closed up to where the air's not going to dry out the top very much. Now you do see it's in the shade. This job was pretty much all in the shade up until the point of which John had to leave. Yeah, John did have to leave, so it was just going to be me and my dad finishing all this concrete. John helped us get it down, then he had to take off. We were grateful to have his help. Now what I'm doing is I'm just floating out one side of the sidewalk, and John will float out the other side, and then we'll get a strike off board, and we'll strike off right down it. Unfortunately, at the very beginning, the strike off board wouldn't fit, so I had to go grab what we call the silly stick, and I just pulled back a little bit to get off the step with the silly stick. And then what we do is we switch back to the strike off board. This tool is actually, it's kind of a cool tool. It has to be the right slump, so you got to have about a 5.5 or 6 to even use this tool. But it's always just best really to use the strike off board, and we just give and take and go right around these pins. And then next step, we'll have to bull float it, obviously, because you want to keep that closed up as well. Even though it's in the shade, you want to close it up as soon as possible, because you got to think that concrete's been on the road for 45 minutes. It's already getting hot. So what I do is I just close it up, one quick bull float, maybe 2 each way, and then I just continue to keep pouring. You want to keep that truck pouring no matter what. Obviously, I have to reposition to get around that trellis, and that's exactly what we do. So what I do is same deal. Float one side, John floats the other, then we strike right down it. My dad fills up the middle. Then we'll just go on back, all the way back to the trellis, as while I go back and I bull float, keep it all closed up. Once we get back to the trellis, the truck repositions on the other side of it. I'll strike through the best I can. I pretty much just freehanded it with the float, checked it real quick with the 2x4, but it wouldn't fit in there either. So some things you got to freehand. My dad just scraping them out here. We actually didn't have enough mud here, so we had to do it one more time. Real quick, I want to say Happy New Year to everybody. I wish nothing but success to you in 2023. I got a little time lapse coming up here and a little bit of vlogging. I appreciate you guys watching.
Tough. Nah, that was pretty easy. We got to put in some rebar. Like that. Got to put that rebar in. He's got some roots over here, so he's got some roots, so what we're doing is we're putting that rebar in there, hoping it holds it together.
So rebar is something that's not really used a lot in Indiana, but what we thought is, since there's so many roots, put the rebar in. That way if it cracks, it won't separate. It won't shift up or down ever. Before the truck takes off, you want to make sure that you got all your tools gathered up and piled up over there and spray all those off, because once that truck takes off, you may not have access to a hose on the side of the house or anything, and even if you do, you don't want to make it mess in some guy's yard or whatever.
That's how everything turned out. We'll give it a minute. I'm going to start edging right away up here. Float it one more time. John was a big help. Glad we had him. Makes a huge difference when you got one other guy that really can kick out concrete. That looks good. I like those little things that go inside that thing. See, John's already up there floating it. Guess I better grab my float. It's wet. Good. It's looking good, boys. I was just telling the YouTube world how much of a difference it makes having one other guy that can kick out concrete like you know what I mean? It makes a huge difference. But I just look at it as like a team. It's all teamwork. Really, this YouTube thing should be teamwork too. I'm going to be collabing with some other people. So be aware of that. Talk to some big creators, not just in the concrete niche, and other niches that want to do a collab. So we got some cool things coming, but I'm going to shut this off for a minute and I'll give you an update here in a little bit. Go. We got to clean this up. The sun's finally hitting it up here. We got the whole sidewalk damn near done. I got to shine these borders. Not too bad. My dad's just cleaning up the edges where it comes in at. One more board, and one more broom. I'm about dead. Had to get some cream off this square. There we go, boys. Here's how it turned out. Backfilled it with dirt. I love that little part right there. Come around here. Nice wide sidewalk. Not a trip hazard at all. Even steps. Got a hell of a good base under it.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm out of here.